Stonehenge, prehistoric stone circle monument, cemetery, and archaeological site located on Salisbury Plain, about 8 miles, 13 kilometres north of Salisbury, Wiltshire, England. Though there is no definite evidence as to the intended purpose of Stonehenge, it was presumably a religious site and an expression of the power and wealth of the chieftains, aristocrats, and priests who had it built, many of whom were buried in the numerous barrows close by. It was aligned on the sun and possibly used for observing the sun and moon, and working out the farming calendar. Or perhaps the site was dedicated to the world of the ancestors, separated from the world of the living, or was a healing centre. Whether it was used by the Druids, Celtic priests, is doubtful, but present-day Druids gather there every year to hail the midsummer sunrise. Looking toward the sunrise, the entrance in the northeast points over a big pillar, now leaning at an angle, called the Heel Stone. Looking the other way, it points to the midwinter sunset. The summer solstice is also celebrated there by huge crowds of visitors. Stonehenge was built in 6 stages between 3000 and 1520 BCE, during the transition from the Neolithic period, New Stone Age, to the Bronze Age. As a prehistoric stone circle, it is unique because of its artificially shaped sarsen stones, blocks of Cenozoic silcrete, arranged in post and lintel formation, and because of the remote origin of its smaller bluestones, igneous and other rocks, from 100, 150 miles, 160, 240 kilometres away, in South Wales. The name of the monument probably derives from the Saxon Stanhengen, meaning stone hanging or gallows. Along with more than 350 nearby monuments and henges, ancient earthworks consisting of a circular bank and ditch, including the Kindred Temple complex at Avebury, Stonehenge, was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1986. Stonehenge has long been the subject of historical speculation, and ideas about the meaning and significance of the structure continued to develop in the 21st century. English antiquarian John Aubrey in the 17th century and his compatriot archaeologist William Stukely in the 18th century both believed the structure to be a Druid temple. This idea has been rejected by more recent scholars, however, as Stonehenge is now understood to have predated by some 2,000 years the Druids recorded by Julius Caesar. In 1963, American astronomer Gerald Hawkins proposed that Stonehenge had been constructed as a computer to predict lunar and solar eclipses. Other scientists also attributed astronomical capabilities to the monument. Most of these speculations, too, have been rejected by experts. In 1973, English archaeologist Colin Renfrew hypothesized that Stonehenge was the center of a confederation of Bronze Age chiefdoms. Other archaeologists, however, have since come to view this part of Salisbury Plain as a point of intersection between adjacent prehistoric territories, serving as a seasonal gathering place during the 4th and 3 RD millennia BCE for groups living in the lowlands to the east and west. In 1998, Malagasy archaeologist Ramili Sonina proposed that Stonehenge was built as a monument to the ancestral dead, the permanence of its stones representing the eternal afterlife. In 2008, British archaeologists Tim Darville and Geoffrey Wainwright suggested, on the basis of the Amesbury Archer, an early Bronze Age skeleton with a knee injury, excavated 3 miles, 5 kilometres, from Stonehenge, that Stonehenge was used in prehistory as a place of healing. However, analysis of human remains from around and within the monument shows no difference from other parts of Britain in terms of the population's health. The Stonehenge that is visible today is incomplete, many of its original sarsens and bluestones having been broken up and taken away, probably during Britain's Roman and medieval periods. The ground within the monument also has been severely disturbed, not only by the removal of the stones but also by digging to various degrees and ends, since the 16th century, when historian and antiquarian William Camden noted that ashes and pieces of burnt bone were found. A large deep hole was dug within the stone circle in 1620 by George Villiers, Wernson Duke of Buckingham, who was looking for treasure. A century later, William Stukely surveyed Stonehenge and its surrounding monuments. But it was not until 1874 1877 that Flinders Petrie made the first accurate plan of the stones. In 1877, Charles Darwin dug 2 holes in Stonehenge to investigate the earth-moving capabilities of earthworms. The first proper archaeological excavation was conducted in 1901 by William Gowland. About half of Stonehenge, mostly on its eastern side, was excavated in the 20th of the century by the archaeologists William Hawley in 1919, 26, and Richard Atkinson in 1950, 78. The results of their work were not fully published until 1995, however, when the chronology of Stonehenge was revised extensively by means of carbon-14 dating. Major investigations in the early 21st century by the research team of the Stonehenge Riverside Project led to further revisions of the context and sequence of Stonehenge. Timothy Darville and Geoffrey Wainwright's 2008 excavation was smaller but nonetheless important. Stonehenge was built within an area that was already special to Mesolithic and Neolithic people. About 8,000, 7,000 BCE, early Mesolithic hunter-gatherers dug pits and erected pine posts within 650 feet, 200 meters, of Stonehenge's future location. It was unusual for prehistoric hunter-gatherers to build monuments, and there are no comparable structures from this era in northwestern Europe. Within a 3-mile, 5 kilometers radius of Stonehenge there remain from the Neolithic period at least 17 long barrows, burial mounds, and 2 Cursus monuments, long enclosures, all dating to the 4th millennium BCE. Between 2200 and 1700 BCE, during the Bronze Age, the Stonehenge-Durrington stretch of the River Avon was at the centre of a concentration of more than 1,000 round barrows on this part of Salisbury Plain. Stonehenge is the world's most famous stone circle, visited by more than 1 million people per year. It stands as an icon for all that is mysterious and awe-inspiring about humanity's prehistoric past. For well over a century, people have gathered at the monument to celebrate the summer solstice. Although banned in 1985 as a result of violent clashes with police, the annual gathering resumed in 2000 and now draws a crowd of more than 30,000. Modern-day Druidic societies have claimed Stonehenge as their own temple, even though the identification of Stonehenge with the original Druids is suspect. The first such society, the Ancient Order of Druids, was formed in 1781. More recently, the number of similar Druidic and other neo-pagan groups has risen in tandem with the decline in conventional religious belief.